It was a Monday night in the off-season, which meant almost no traffic. We had just 3 rooms booked, and I was alone at the front desk. It was the kind of night where even the vending machine hum feels too loud. I was halfway through a crossword puzzle, sipping lukewarm coffee, when the bell rang. Room 211 guest. Mid-30s, business casual, bags under his eyes. He looked more irritated than scared, but definitely unsettled. "Hey," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. "There's water dripping through the ceiling. It's slow but steady. Thought maybe someone left a faucet running." I checked the system. Room 209, directly above him, was supposed to be empty. It had been all day. "Strange," I told him. "I'll take a look. Probably just a maintenance thing." I grabbed the master key and headed up the back stairs. Room 209 hadn't been used in nearly 2 weeks, mostly because we were trying to deep clean it. We had issues with plumbing before, nothing serious, just minor leaks and some weird mold around the pipes. Maintenance was supposed to fix it last Thursday, but they ghosted again. When I reached the door, everything felt still. Not quiet, still, like the kind of silence that presses in around your ears. I unlocked the door and stepped in. The air hit me immediately. Stale, like wet towels left to rot in an attic. The room itself was clean, bed made, lights off, blinds drawn. No sounds, no flickering lights. The floor wasn't even damp. But then, my boots made a faint suction sound. I looked down. The tile just inside the bathroom was warped, like it had been melted and cooled again. I stepped closer and crouched. No visible water, no fresh moisture, but my soul stuck for a split second when I stood again. Not glue, something more organic. The bathroom mirror was fogged. I wiped my sleeve across it. It smeared oddly, like there was something between the glass and the reflection itself. I backed out. No reason to stay. Probably just leftover residue from the old leak. I chalked it up to a glitch in the AC or a busted pipe under the tile. Still, I filed a maintenance request and sealed the door behind me. About an hour later, I was back at the desk when the same guest from 211 came down again. This time, his tone was different, shaky. "Hey," he said, voice lowered. "I'm not trying to be dramatic, but did someone check into 209 after I left?" I thought I heard screaming. I froze for a beat. Screaming? Yeah, not loud, just strained, like someone trying not to yell. I told him the truth. No one had checked in. In fact, the system won't let you assign a guest to a flagged maintenance room. But I promised I'd check the hallway cams, just to ease his mind. I pulled up the security feed from the West Hall. Only 3 cameras, one by the stairwell, one by the ice machine, and one aimed square at room 209. At first, everything looked normal. Timestamps lined up. No motion. But then, around 11:34 p.m., the feed glitched. Just for a second. And in that blink, right in the static, I saw something. A figure, blurred, silhouetted inside the doorway of room 209's bathroom. Barely visible but off. The shape was human, sure, but it didn't move naturally. It was bent inward, like its spine was folding the wrong way. And its hands were pressed against the bathroom mirror, but not facing the mirror. Pressed from the inside of it. Then the footage corrected itself. No figure, no light. Just a still, empty hallway again. I told myself the feed was corrupted. That night's shift paranoia was messing with me. But I didn't sleep well when my shift ended. The next night, room 209 showed a booking request in the system. But here's the catch. It wasn't through any official channel. No online reservation, no phone call. Just a name, Valda R., typed directly into the admin panel. No credit card, no ID, no timestamp. And the weirdest part? The system wouldn't let me delete it. The name sat there for 48 hours before disappearing on its own. This has happened 5 times now. Different names each time. Never repeat guests. Never full info, and never traceable. The system logs the bookings, then wipes them clean. We've stopped assigning the room altogether. Our maintenance guy, Charlie, tried to shut off the water lines to that floor entirely. But every few days, we find a rust-colored puddle in the same spot inside the bathroom. Not water. Not quite blood either. Like syrupy iron. And it smells. We deep clean. We repaint. The stain comes back. The housekeepers won't enter without a second person anymore. One of them swears she heard someone crying in the shower stall, even though the curtain was open and no one was there. Another one found long fingernail gouges under the sink rim. Last week, I caught myself watching the monitor again. Room 209's hallway. I don't even remember why. And for a moment, I saw the reflection again. Only this time, it looked like me. But wrong. The eyes were too wide. The mouth was smiling when mine wasn't. And it held a hand to the glass, slowly dragging the fingers down like it knew I was watching. I turned off the monitor. We tell guests that room 209 is under renovation. We keep it locked. We've even considered sealing it entirely, but the owners think it's bad PR. They don't have to work nights here. They don't have to hear the buzzing in the wires when no one's around. I don't have proof of what's happening. I've deleted and reinstalled the security system 3 times. I filed reports that go nowhere. But I know what I saw. I know that smell. And I know that whatever's inside room 209, it doesn't want to be forgotten. It wants to be seen. And worse, I think it wants out. Story 2. They told me I could throw it out when we switched to the digital system. No need for relics, my manager said. But I kept the old check-in log tucked behind the desk anyway. Something about its fading leather cover and creaky spine felt grounding. The motel had history, and this book held decades of names, dates, signatures. All those people passing through, most of whom never gave us a second thought. On a Tuesday night, quiet as usual, I noticed something strange. A page near the back had new writing. Fresh ink. Neat cursive. Marla H. Room 105. Checked in at 9:06 p.m. We only had 4 rooms booked that night, and none of them under that name. I stared at the entry, flipping back to see if anyone had written on earlier pages. 3 more names were listed. Different handwriting. Different times. None matched our system. I showed the log to Gabe, our maintenance guy. He joked that maybe a ghost just missed the old ways. I laughed, but it didn't sit right. That night, around 2 a.m., I got up from the lobby couch to stretch and glance at the monitors. Room 105's door was wide open. We hadn't rented out 105 in weeks. It had a broken lock we'd been waiting to fix. I grabbed the spare key, which we mostly kept for show, and walked down the carpeted hall. The farther I got, the colder the air felt. Not broken AC cold. Damp, heavy cold. Like the air had weight to it. The door creaked louder than I expected when I nudged it open. The room was dark, but not pitch black. The kind of dark where you can make out shapes, but nothing feels familiar. The bathroom door was closed. That hadn't happened last. I checked it weeks ago. I scanned the room and noticed the desk drawer was open just slightly. Inside were crumpled sheets of paper, maybe 30 or 40 pages, all torn from the same kind of logbook. My logbook. I pulled one out. Name, Lewis Mercer. Room, 207. Time of death, 2:17 a.m. There was no date, no check-in, just a time, and a signature, shaky, smudged. The next page had a different name. Same format. Dozens of them. Time of death. Not check-in. My skin prickled as I stood there flipping through them. Then, I heard the bell of the front desk ring. One short ding. Then 2. Then silence. I didn't move for maybe a minute, listening to the room breathe around me. The air felt off, like I wasn't alone anymore. When I got back to the lobby, no one was there. The bell was still slightly tilted, like it had just been tapped. The logbook was open again. A new name had been added. D. Vane, room 105, check-in, 3:07 a.m. That was my name. And that time, it was just a minute from now. I checked the front door to see if anyone had come in without me hearing, but the security bolt was still locked. No entries in the digital system. Just that name in the margins, in handwriting I didn't recognize. I told myself it was stress, that I'd probably written it in without realizing. Maybe I'd fallen asleep and dreamed it all. The human mind can fill in blanks, right? Hallucinate under pressure. I didn't sleep that night. I left the lights on and locked every door I could. The next morning, I brought the pages to our manager. She laughed it off, creepy, but probably some old paperwork, she said, brushing the death times off like they were just typos. She threw them out. I quit bringing it up, but the book stayed. And it keeps happening. Not every night, but often enough. I'll glance at the log while filing a report, and a new name will be there. Sometimes, a room number we haven't used in years. Sometimes, a time that hasn't come yet. I Googled one of the names, Marla H. Turns out she vanished in 1998. Last seen checking into a roadside motel. Not ours, officially, but the description matched our layout exactly before the renovations. I checked the archives. Deep in an old metal cabinet, I found a water-stained flyer with her photo on it. The same face I thought I glimpsed once on the lobby cam feed, flickering behind the vending machine, just for a moment. Some nights, I hear that bell again. Ding, ding, ding. 3 times. And once, just once, the book showed a name I knew too well, Gabe. Room 112, 4:12 a.m. I called him. He was fine. Said he hadn't been near the motel in weeks. That same night, a pipe burst in 112. The wall behind the bed collapsed. Inside, another logbook. Same style, same ink, different names. That's when I realized this wasn't just happening to our motel. I don't know if the log is haunted or cursed or just watching, but I've stopped trying to throw it away. It always finds its way back behind the desk, always open to the next blank space. Last week, I found another name in it. Nearest vein, no room, time of death, unknown. It was the only entry without a room number, just a blank hallway. And sometimes, late at night, just before I doze off, I swear I hear footsteps walking down it, toward the lobby, toward me. Story 3. Room 108 had always felt off. Even before anything truly strange happened, it was the one room guests complained about the most. They'd say the heater didn't work properly or the air felt heavier in there. A few even claimed it gave them headaches or made them feel watched. Nothing we could pin down. Still, I chalked it up to the big antique wall mirror bolted into the far wall. Floor to ceiling, frame heavy as sin. Probably older than the building itself. It wasn't just decorative. It dominated the space. Kind of beautiful in a Gothic way, but cold. Too cold. That mirror was part of the room's original fixtures. Management had joked about removing it before, but no one ever followed through. It looked expensive, fragile, and it was bolted in tight. I assumed it was part of the wall until I tried to take it down myself, but I'll get to that. One winter night, we were booked solid. A snowstorm had rolled in, and we were filling up fast with stranded drivers. Room 108 was the last one left. Around 12:30 a.m., a guy came in, a trucker, tall, heavy-set, beard thick with ice, the kind of man who looked like he didn't spook easily. He asked for anything we had, paid cash, and didn't say much else. I gave him the key to 108. He nodded once and went down the hall without another word. The next morning, his keys were sitting on the counter. No sign of him. I figured he left early, maybe slipped out while we were changing shifts. But when I checked the cameras, something didn't sit right. There was a 2-hour gap in the hallway feed, just static. And I mean clean static. No flicker, no distortion. Like someone had scrubbed it. Still, I didn't think too hard about it until the housekeeper, Dana, came back looking rattled. She just finished cleaning 108. "I'm not going back in there," she said, arms crossed, face pale. I asked why. She didn't want to answer. Finally, she told me the mirror was covered in handprints. Like greasy prints. I asked. She shook her head. Inside. On the inside of the mirror. Now I've seen foggy handprint from steam. I've seen greasy smudges from kids, even the occasional lipstick message. But Dana wasn't the type to exaggerate. So I went down myself. The room was spotless, smelled of citrus and bleach. But that mirror, yeah, it was something else. From the hallway, you wouldn't notice. But as soon as I stepped into the room and shut the door, it was like the temperature dropped 10 degrees. I approached the mirror. At first, I saw only my reflection, me a little tired, a little skeptical. But then I saw them. Handprints. Dozens of them. Pressed against the inside of the glass. Some small, some large. All slightly distorted, as if they were trying to push through from the other side. I wiped them down with a cloth. They smeared and vanished. But then I did something I probably shouldn't have. I leaned in. And my reflection didn't lean in with me. It just stood there, staring. Same face. Same uniform. But my reflection wasn't blinking when I did. I backed away fast. My heart was hammering. I told myself it was just a trick of the light, fatigue, whatever. But I knew what I saw. That afternoon, I came back with a screwdriver and a pry bar. I wanted that thing off the wall. Enough was enough. But when I tried to loosen it, I realized something. there were no bolts, no screws, no seams. The mirror wasn't attached to anything. Behind it, just plaster. No opening, no space. Like the mirror wasn't installed. It had just grown there. Still, the reflection was there, watching me. I turned around a few times just to make sure I wasn't losing it. But my reflection would always move a fraction slower than I did. Not enough to be obvious, just enough to feel wrong. Like a delay. Like it had to think about what it was supposed to do next. After that, I shut the room down, blocked it from online booking, hung a laminated out-of-service sign on the door, told the front desk staff not to offer it. Even if we were desperate, we left the lights off in there. Let's sit. Weeks passed. Then, one night, during another snowstorm, a guest showed up asking for his room. Said he'd booked online. Room 108. I told him that room wasn't available. He looked confused, showed me his confirmation email. Sure enough, it said room 108. I checked our system. Nothing. 108 hadn't been open for over a month. But the timestamp on a reservation, it had been made just 15 minutes earlier. I ran a scan on our security feed, and there it was again. That 2-hour gap. Clean static. Only this time, when the feed kicked back in, room 108's door was closed, and there was a flicker of movement behind the frosted glass. I pulled the key to 108 from the drawer, just to be sure. It was already gone. I don't know who or what is inside that mirror, but I've learned not to question it anymore. When someone insists they've booked room 108, I tell them the system glitched. I offer them a free upgrade and make sure they stay on the other end of the building. Still, every once in a while, the front desk bell rings on its own. I'll look up, and the reservation log shows a new check-in. Always room 108. Always after midnight. And always, the mirror seems just a little closer than it was the day before. Story 4. There was never supposed to be a basement. That's what the blueprint said. What the owner told me. What every employee repeated. Like it was some mantra we weren't allowed to question. But if you've ever worked late shifts at a half-empty roadside motel, you know your mind starts to wander. You notice things, patterns, odd noises that always seem to come from the same spot, doors that creak a little too long, lights that flicker when no one's around. It's the kind of silence that gets under your skin, makes you curious in the worst way. For me, it started with a buzzer, not a fire alarm, not a smoke detector, a sharp, hollow-sounding beep that would come from behind a small metal panel near the vending machines. Always late, always once, never long, just enough to make you stop what you were doing and look. At first, I thought it was electrical. Faulty wiring, maybe. The motel was old, after all, but the panel wasn't marked. No emergency access, no labels, no screws, just a faint seam and a dull metallic ring where a lock might have once been. One night around 2:30 a.m., I was doing rounds when it buzzed again. I walked over, half asleep, annoyed. And that's when I noticed it. A smell. Not like burnt wires. Not even mold. It was earthy. Damp. Like freshly dug soil. Cold. Thick. You don't expect to smell dirt in a climate-controlled hallway. I pressed my hand to the panel. It was cool to the touch. And then, I swear to God, I felt something move on the other side. Not a vibration. Breath. It came through the cracks. Cold, stale, like air from a place that hadn't seen daylight in years. The next morning, I brought it up to maintenance. One of the older guys, Don, just stared at me for a second. Then he said, "That buzzer's not wired to anything. Been like that since before I got here." I asked why it was even there. He shrugged. Motel was built in the 60s. Plans changed a lot back then. Codes, permits, you know how it is. I didn't know how it was. What I didn't know was this. Every time that buzzer went off, we got a complaint from room 203. Not just any complaint either, scratching. Under the bed. I checked the room myself after the first few reports. Nothing. Just worn carpet and wood panels. No rats. No vents. No gaps. But guests always said the same thing. It started slow, like nails dragging across wood. Then it got louder. Faster. Like something trying to claw its way up from the floor. One woman even said it whispered her name. We comp night. She checked out before sunrise. Eventually, I couldn't help myself. I went back to the panel with a crowbar. Took me a few minutes, but I got it open. Behind it, a staircase. Narrow, concrete, spiraling down into pitch black. There were no lights. just the thick, musty smell of wet stone and old soil. I shined my flashlight down, but the beam disappeared after a few feet. The stairs just kept going. I stepped in. 1 step. 2. The air got colder. 3. My flashlight dimmed, like the darkness was swallowing it. 4. My chest tightened, and it felt like I'd walked into a cave. 5. Then my radio crackled. Loud static, like someone had hit every channel at once. And beneath the static, my own voice. Whispering, "Don't." I froze. Tried to breathe, but the air felt too thick. And then I heard something at the bottom. Knocking. Rhythmic. Soft. Like knuckles tapping against a door that hadn't been opened in years. I turned around and got out fast. Slammed the panel shut. Wedged a chair against it. Later, I sealed it with screws, then plaster. Management didn't ask questions. Didn't care, as long as it stopped bothering the guests. But it didn't stop. The buzzer still goes off. Less often, but always at night. And every so often, room 203 calls down, asking if we can check for mice or plumbing issues, or whatever excuse they can think of to avoid saying what they're really hearing. Scratching. Tapping. Breathing. Last week, the guest in 203 checked out 3 days early. He looked exhausted, hadn't slept, eyes bloodshot. He didn't even wait for his refund. Just handed over the key, muttered, "There's something under the floor," and walked out. We blocked off that room now, too. Sometimes I sit in the lobby after my shift, long past when I should have gone home. I stare down the hallway at that panel. It looks harmless now, just a faint rectangle behind the snack machine. But when the buzzer goes off, I don't even flinch anymore. I just wait, because one of these nights, I know I'll have to open it again. And I'm not sure what I'll find if I do. Story 5. I worked front desk at the motel for over 4 years. Nights are usually slow, boring even. You get used to the rhythm, check-ins, the occasional late guest looking for towels, the hum of vending machines down the hall. But some nights change the way you think about silence. About time. About what's really real. This happened on a Wednesday. I remember because it was raining, light, steady, the kind of drizzle that makes everything feel slower. The place was quiet. Only 3 rooms were occupied, and no one had checked in since around 10 p.m. I was sipping bad coffee and flipping through an old paperback when the lobby phone rang. I jumped a little. It was 2:57 a.m. Phones don't just ring at that hour, unless someone's locked out or complaining. But all 3 guests were in. I knew that. I checked the log before settling in for the night. Still, I picked up. Front desk. This is a Lowen. Nothing but static. I waited. Then, underneath the hiss, a voice came through. It wasn't loud, more like it was straining through a broken speaker. Garbled, broken, but clear enough. "He's still in the room." I froze. The line clicked off. Room 117 was supposed to be empty. Vacant since noon. The guy who had it checked out early. Said he had to catch a flight. I remember because he left behind a bag of chips and a half-smoked cigar. I tossed both and cleaned the keys. I double-checked the system. Yep, 117 was empty. I looked at the hallway camera feed. Nothing. No movement. No sound. Still, I couldn't shake that voice. Something about it wasn't panicked, but it had this tension. Like whoever said it was afraid to speak too loud. I grabbed the key card, clicked on my walkie, and went. The hallway was silent. The kind of silence that presses into your ears. I tapped the card to the door and pushed it open. Nothing. Bed was made. TV off. Blinds drawn. Just still. Except for the bathroom light. It was on, flickering like a dying firefly. I stepped in. That's when I saw the mirror. Words were scrawled across it in condensation. Like someone had just taken a hot shower, except the air was cold. Wrong time. My stomach dropped. I backed out, shut the door behind me, and practically ran to the desk. I sat there in a daze, trying to convince myself I imagined it. That maybe it was just leftover from the last guest. But the mirror had been cleaned during housekeeping. And the voice. I remembered we had recordings. Every call to and from the front desk got logged and archived. I pulled up a system and found the call. There it was filed as incoming, time-stamped 3:17 a.m. But that didn't make sense. I picked up that call 20 minutes ago. I looked at the clock. 3 a.m. sharp. How could a call that already happened be logged in the future? I clicked play. The static was the same. So was the voice. He's still in the room. I played it again, over and over. Then I just sat there, staring at the clock, heart thumping. At exactly 3:17, the phone rang again. Same line, same tone. This time, the static was softer. And then, my name, Eloan, whispered like someone standing right behind me. I spun around. No one there. I didn't sleep when my shift ended. I stayed in the office, lights on, trying to make sense of it. Later that morning, I checked room 117 again. The condensation was gone. So were the words. But the bathroom mirror? It had fingerprints on the inside of the glass, facing outward. We called the phone company. They said the timestamp couldn't be wrong. It matched their system. They chalked it up to a delay in the signal and moved on. But I know what I heard. I know what time it was. Now, every night I work, I unplug the phone at 3:15, just in case it rings again, because I don't want to know what happens next.